This small group of coins is the focus for this week's Lost and Found Friday. They are something of a mystery. We don't know anything about the circumstances of how they were lost or who lost them, only that they were found in the southeastern corner of the Cathedral Close in the 1960s. All the coins date from the Georgian period: an Irish halfpenny from 1736, a penny from 1807, a very worn sixpence, a shilling token from 1811, and a medal commemorating the death of King George III in 1820. The presence of the worn sixpence and the shilling token explain a little of the situation regarding coinage during the Georgian period. The French Revolutionary Wars and then the Napoleonic Wars had led to financial instability in Britain. There was also a shortage of silver and copper, which in turn led to a shortage of coinage, demonstrated by the fact that our very worn sixpence was still in circulation. Consequently, paper money became legal in 1719, and eventually the government embarked upon a programme of recoinage, which reintroduced silver coinage. For example, nearly 40 million shillings were produced between 1816 and 1820. However, until these new coins were produced, various local tokens were instead created. The token that we have in this small group shows an image of a church through trees with the words "value 1 shilling" on one side, and on the other it says "a pound note for 20 tokens given by William Bastin, Cheltenham, 1811. Tokens of this sort were used as small change, although technically they had no legal value, and it was in fact illegal for anyone other than the government to strike coins. At this time, many people had moved to towns and cities, meaning that there were plenty of customers for small traders, but the shortage of coins already mentioned made it difficult to conduct business and also to find coins to make up weekly wage packets for employees. At the end of the 18th century, various manufacturers, including Matthew Bolton of Birmingham, had manufactured copper tokens of the value of farthing, a halfpenny and a penny for small businesses that could be exchanged for goods in their shops or their localities. Although it seems that many people treated these coins as alternative official copper coinage, and they actually circulated widely. Then, when the government issued their own copper coinage in the late 1790s, the demand for these tokens decreased. But our token is silver and dated 1811. How does this connect to the copper token mania of the late 1700s? Well, the reasons are the same. A shortage of silver coinage, and the silver coins, the sixpence and the shilling, were among the most heavily used coins. So, from 1811 to 1814, many silver tokens were issued for the same uses as the copper tokens had been. And who was William Bastin? He was a draper in Cheltenham. He lived in Oxford Passage, just a stone's throw from St Mary's Church, which is depicted on his token. This is the oldest building in Cheltenham. Sources show that he was baptised in 1775, married in 1798 and buried in 1818, all at St Mary's. His will, which is at the National Archives, tells us that he had 4 daughters: Mary Ann, Emily, Charlotte and Juliana, and as well as an annuity for his father, he left the money from his properties to be shared equally among the 4 girls and his wife, or at least until she married again. It is interesting that this token was still held by someone after 1820, as legislation against tokens of this sort was made in July 1812, though the ban was only to take effect the following year and then put off again until 1814. Some of the artists and entrepreneurs who were involved with the production of the tokens were also involved in the production of medals. The 18th century was a high point for medals, to commemorate great people or acts, or to be awarded as prizes for competitions or innovations. Our medal is relatively modest in size, measuring just 5 centimetres or 2 inches across, and is one of over 10 different designs struck at the occasion of the king's death. In fact, Throughout his lifetime, King George III was the subject of about 30 different medals, marking events such as his accession, his coronation, his marriage, and the birth of his sons. He even collected medals himself. His grand medal case was eventually bequeathed by his son, George IV, to the British Museum in 1825. Anyway, to get back to our medal, you will see that on one side there is a profile of the king, depicted in the Windsor undress uniform, a dark blue jacket with red facings, that he introduced in the 1790s for use by the court, still worn today at Windsor Castle. Above his head it says George III, and around the edge it gives his date of birth, the date of his accession to the throne, and his date of death. On the other side, there is a crown resting on a cushion which is lying on top of a pillar, with a Bible to the right and scales and a sword to the left. Around this are the words, "The memory of the just is blessed," and around the edge, the date of his marriage to Queen Charlotte and her date of death. It was designed by John Westwood Jr. He was born and baptised in Birmingham in 1774. His father, Obadiah, and uncle, also called John, were involved in the design and production of coins and the copper tokens that were the precursor to the Bastin token that we saw earlier, including probably some designs that were counterfeit. John Jr. would have grown up within this industry of coin and medal design and production, and so it is not surprising that he followed this trade. About 1800, he moved to Sheffield, and then to Lichfield, and then to London. He is on the 1841 census in London's Hammersmith district, described as an artist, and is buried there following his death in 1850. Commemorative medals of this sort are still struck today. In fact, one was created for the 200th anniversary of George III's death in 2020, and now, as then, they are collector's pieces, as are the silver trade tokens such as that of William Bastin. For more stories of objects lost and found at the cathedral, why not visit our exhibition?